Hello and welcome. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is a session 0. So this is a warning for those people who don't like watching the character creation process, because I know there's some people out there who do not dig that, whereas I think it's kind of interesting, for a game called Vergence. And Vergence is a Forge in the Dark game of interdimensional conflict and family drama, which I had printed at Kinko's. So I had a copy because I always like working with a paper copy of these things. Uh, I have 4 great players. We're going to be setting up our characters here. We're going to be deciding about the challenge that we're going to be facing for our characters. We'll be talking about what's involved with this, and we'll be doing a little bit of world building. We may even kind of roll into some first scenes today. We'll be taking breaks on the hour is our usual pattern. So basically, I'm going to walk through our CATS document, which gives an overview of things and gets us all calibrated to being on the same page here. So this is a Forge in the Dark game of interdimensional science fantasy combined with filial politics. That is the way that I imagine it. It is Amber, the Amber Chronicles, with the serial numbers. I don't even want to say filed off. Someone has brushed them gently with a cloth to perhaps obscure them, which I love because it's a great setting. It's a great concept. They've taken the most interesting core concepts and from that and drawn on those pieces, which I think is dynamite, and added some new twists, some new wrinkles to that. It is Forge in the Dark, which means it is a diced game as opposed to the original Amber Diceless or the revised version Lords of Gossamer and Shadow, which came out later. But it is very much in that milieu. Think other wondrous science fantasy interdimensional stories. We're thinking the Eternal Champion cycle. We're thinking Nobilis. We're thinking his Dark Materials. And we're also thinking Kill 6 Billion Demons. As inspirations, as touchstones at the book sites more beyond that. But that's the basic concept. So what are we going to be actually doing? We will be playing young people, young scions of particular lines. There are 3 houses, three sort of sources for the interdimensional travel, and I'll talk about those in a moment. And then there's the lost, the sort of people who are outside of that bloodline. There are a set of multiple worlds, and essentially people travel from world to world in these parallel dimensions by changing things as they move, by imagining and redrawing the world as they go along and moving through those worlds to get to where they want to go in that way. You are young members of these lines. You have immense powers, skills, abilities, but you are still the younglings. You are still at the bottom of the ranking, and you're trying to make a name for yourself. And those family lines and bloodlines are important. This is a game that has you kind of deciding who your parents are, because they'll be important characters in this potentially, depending on whether you love them or hate them, or something in between. So what we'll be doing is we'll be choosing a challenge for our alliance, and that's what they call the party here. You may be all from different houses, but you've come together, drawn together by a particular purpose. The book has a number of different challenges. These are kind of campaign forms that inform how experience happens, that inform how a play is marked, and all of those kinds of things. I've looked through there and I've settled down. I'm going to talk particularly about the 2 that I've settled on as the ones I think would be good for the play that we're going to do. And that is Dark Conspiracy, which basically means that at the start, some sinister force has done something to you or someone you love or something you love, and you've come together to try and figure out what this conspiracy is and try to deal with it. That's one choice. I like that because it gets action adventure, but it also has the sort of politics and interaction stuff. The other choice is a game of houses, where you as a group will choose one faction that you are allied with, one from one of these houses, and you will be your goal will be to raise up the fortunes of that particular house through politics and manipulation and scheming and those kinds of things. You'll still be all part of an alliance. You'll still be all together, but you'll be working towards manipulating things out there. And we'll come back and talk about what we want to do in a second. This game has a looser structure than conventional Forge in the Dark. If I know everyone here has at least some experience with the play style. Harry, you're playing a Vergence in another game, but for Sherry, Tyler, Patrick, we've got free play, which we fall back to, the standard like RP. We're going to do those things, and then we might fall into operations phase, which is, hey, I think there's a thing that we can do. I think there's a plot or a mission or something that we can carry out. And we go and we do that, and we have an engagement role, and we resolve that, and then we come back. Then there is the rest phase, which basically is you say, well, we're going to take some time, and we're going to recover. And you recover stress. You're going to reset some assists. You're going to reset some abilities. You're going to check your bonds. And basically you get to do that. And the clock on the bad guys moves forward a little. And that's basically, hey, I just want to reset everything to start. The other phase, which would be essentially the downtime phase in a normal game, is called the scheming phase. And in the scheming phase, you can heal, you can earn favor, you can make alliances, you can manage contingents, which are your servants, and you can do long-term projects. In the scheming phase, at the end of a scheming phase, you recover 4 stress. If you want to recover more, you can spend one of your actions to recover more. This is a game that's very loose. There's no items in this game. Stress is a little more manageable. We've got a smaller set of skills than we do in standard Forge in the Dark. So there's a lot of changes along those lines, but the basic structure remains the same. Our tone-wise, this is a game of science fantasy. It's a game of wonder. Even if we're going to worlds that have like cybernetics, or weird space pistols or things like that, people are still are wearing swords, and there's still dragons and things like that around. That's just how the aesthetic of it is going to be, because that's more fun. So feel free to be 4-color, feel free to be widescreen, feel free to spend all the budget that you want to on this. It is a game that involves a lot of politics, NPC interactions, betrayal, things like that. And it is sort of that kind of high fantasy. Now, with that in mind, this is a game that I haven't run before. It's a game with a very open structure. So I have no idea how long things are going to take. I've discovered in recent years, I've become terrible at judging about how long a scenario is going to take. But we're going to play till we get to good points. We've got, I believe, a total of 7 sessions to play this in. And that's a pretty good space to work with. And we're going to try and get to a good point on that. It is, the tone, I think, is like there's some seriousness in that, there's some danger and deadliness. It is not gonzo, but it is wondrous and dangerous and risky and tough, and yet you are all really potent, dangerous people in your own right with strange and amazing powers. Safety is the last note that we'll make. I know all of you have played with me before, so you're familiar with this. I will briefly mention, we've got the Lines and Veils tab. where you should mark out anything that you feel strongly about, that you want to put a hard line on, or veil it means a fade to black, or an ask first if that's something you definitely want people to check in on, if it would happen during the game. So for example, I put down torture, and actually what I technically mean is actually torture by the PCs. Like villains might use torture. That's a decent signifier, but PCs don't. That's just not the kinds of stories that I want to deal with. But go ahead and mark anything out. We'll check in again a little bit later in the character creation process to see what people have chosen. This is a living document, meaning that we can add to it. If it's incomplete right now, if there's anything else you want to put on there, feel free to do that. I do have PC betrayal as a line on there. I do want us to, like, we might tweak each other. We might twist and turn. There might be some tension, but I don't think our players, our PCs, should engage in direct betrayal. And even if they come to blows, I think it should be clearly a duel so they can both prove who they are and then have the measure of one another and that kind of thing. That's my general feeling on that score. That's the first layer. Second layer is the X card, which I know all of you are familiar with, meaning that you can do this gesture or you can say X card. X card used for anything you find problematic, if you find it objectionable, if you find other players' particular play manner, like stepping on your toes or things like that, you can X card to have us recalibrate on that. If you find something goes wildly off tone than what we've established, that's another thing. And one thing that actually Tyler taught me to mention and focus on is that the other reason to use X card is if we have started to lean or move towards something that's a line or a veil or even an ask first, and maybe it looks like I haven't picked up on it or a player hasn't picked up on it, good time to X card is to go, hey, remember that we've got this. I'm going to X card where we're at right now. Let's recalibrate where we're at. Because sometimes we can miss that in the heat of things. And last thing I'm going to say about X card, if something has happened a few times and you've been okay with it the first few times, and then later on you're like, nope, it is absolutely legit to X card it later. And the last thing is open door. That if you need to step away, if you need to leave for mental health reasons, for physical health reasons, for an Amazon delivery, whatever, you should feel free to step away. It's always good if you like say, hey, I'm going to be back, or I'm not going to be back. That's cool. Either way, it's nice if you give us a gesture, but you don't have to. Also, if you get to after this session and you're like, ooh, wow, this is not the game for me. I don't really want to play another session of Sword Crown and the Unspeakable Power. I mean, I don't want to have Vergence. Then you should say, I thank you for letting me play, but this is not the game for me. You should never stick around for a game that is just bugging you. You should always feel free, and I will always be happy if something doesn't gel with somebody, if they don't want to play. That is absolutely cool. So that's the last bit on our safety talk. So I want to briefly talk about the 4 houses that we have here and what they mean. And just to give you, I know some of you have looked at this material already, but I want to do this to also give you a sense of how I'm seeing these things, okay? Everything exists in the Umbra. The Umbra is the bigger world, the universe that exists out there. Within it, there are anchors, places that have a developed solidity. There are paths that run through the great Tormillian way that is maintained, that goes between those. There are There's a place at the very edge of this world called the Void. But there are three big dimension moving through empires. These are our three houses. They are first the Caverns of Agoros. There's basically the center of a universe of stone. They've got this orb. This orb is what they connect with, contact with. When they get their powers, they're destroyed and remade by the orb. And the orb is what allows them to travel away. Their world is a world, when you go there, that gunpowder and high tech doesn't work. It's a world of fantasy. It is ruled by a royal family and it's a hereditary bloodline. There are major cities within there. It's very much the Amber from the Amber books. That is what that is. And there are three playbooks. There is the Adept, who is kind of got some mental powers and some sight and some foresight. We've got the Explorer, who is the character that travels out to find things, to lead people on expeditions. And then there's the Heir, who really ties into the royal powers and royal bloodlines of the Caverns of Agoros. So that's the first group. The second group is the Maelstrom. And the Maelstrom is a world of primal storms. There's a great stationary sun in the center of that. And then there are these storms. There's no land or sea, only infinite sky. And there are these countless ecosystems that are out there. And the inhabitants of the Maelstrom live inside of these floating cities that are constructed out of various materials. And they use those storms to travel across, often in vessels. So we have an aeronaut, he said, looking at Tyler, who is the character who travels on these storms, who pilots things, who is rakish. There's a rakish ability there, Tyler. So just say, we have the Stormcaster, who is a person who uses the magic of the storm more fully, more leans into that. And then we have the Storm Knight, who is very much our offensive version of that, with perhaps magical weapons and dead shots and things like that. And then, almost as if there was another world that was made for Patrick, there is the Serpent. The Serpent is a single creature, 1,000 miles long, that slithers between worlds. It has its own ecosystem and civilization living on and within it. There are cities scattered within its scales and villages inside arteries. Creatures large and small live there, picked up from a millennia of travel among the worlds. The noble families of the Serpent are formed into clans, which each claim a portion of the creature and its environs. And we have for them the Beast Rider, which is a beast rider. Like you get animal companions and things like that. You have the Shaman, who uses the weird powers of the Serpent to do things, like curses and blood blades and that kind of thing. And then there's a shapeshifter. So we've got a character that can control their own blood and take on armor and create blood servants out of their own blood and that kind of thing. So that is what comes from that. And last are the Lost. The Lost have like, you haven't associated with one of the powers that allows you to move through. You've come your own way. You've discovered your own secrets of traveling, and you've struck out. You're not from any one of these three great houses. You were born on one of the umbral worlds, likely to someone who has some power. Maybe it's up to you. You get to make those choices on the bloodlines there. And we have the Conqueror, who is someone who kind of strides between worlds, military, with Oracle, who can see things, visions, have a sense of the world and gather other seekers of truth. And then we have a trickster who has lied, cheat, and stolen their way through the worlds to get to where they are. So those are our playbooks. One of the things you're going to need to be referencing when we go through the character creation is the in the character keeper Google Drive, there is the Vergence handouts. And in the Vergence handouts, there's a character creation 1 page and a character creation 2 page. There's a lot of stuff there that I already had a lot of stuff in the character keeper, so I didn't want to do that. So you will have to kind of go to that PDF because it has some names and some explanations and things like that. So let me start. Harry, I'm going to start with you, the first one to arrive. So do you have any sense of, and I want to say, everybody should take a different playbook, but you can and ought to come from the same house if you want to. Everybody can come from a different house or different approach, or people can come from the same one. That is all up to you. We'll figure out how that works. So Harry, do you have a sense of maybe some things that you would like? Got some choices narrowed down, or you have like, I'm this.
I'm like either or on the Serpent with the shapeshifter, or the Adept for the Caverns.
Okay.
Either one, just depending on who wants to play.
Okay. So Adept, Caverns. Okay, good. Got that narrowed down to 2 choices. I like that. Sherry, what in what I said here in a long block of text has caught your eye? Ooh, so quiet.
Oh, so quiet, but I'm moving my mouth. It's the most annoying of all things. The Oracle looks kind of interesting. And I'm looking at the other ones, but that's the one that kind of popped out at me with some interesting bits. I mean, but I can do anything, even ridiculous Stormbrider things, so I don't mind.
Okay.
I'll see what fits when we get everyone settled down.
Okay, so you're doing the deference.
I'm deferring mostly, but with like a lean on Oracle,
Fair
depending if
enough.
it fits. I just said, if we're going to do like the houses, should we all be from the same house?
No, you don't have to be. We'll if we do the game of houses, we'll figure out the reason why you're joined together, helping out that particular house.
All right.
Tyler, what are you interested in?
Well, they all look so great, but I have 3 that I am interested in.
Okay.
I like the Storm Knight, I like the Beast Rider, and I like the Conqueror.
Storm Knight, Beast Rider, Conqueror. All right, good. No overlaps so far. So no one's made a decision yet. Patrick, what do you think?
Again, I like all of them. But across the ones that have caught my eye, other people's choices help knock out some of those. So I'm sort of down to the Aeronaut and the Stormcaster.
Aeronaut, Stormcaster.
Honestly, if it's between those 2, I think the Aeronaut looks super cool. You want to do that.
Think you can do the Aeronaut?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to circle that. So, Harry, I come back to you. You had 2 choices that you'd looked at. Either one of those now pulling to you.
Yeah, I think if I have to choose between those 2, it's going to be the Serpent house, the shapeshifter.
Okay.
Give that one a shot.
All right. And Tyler, with a shapeshifter and an Aeronaut in the mix, what are you thinking?
Oh, me. Oh, it's so hard to decide. I think, gosh darn it. I think I want the Beast Rider.
Really? That's interesting. I was wondering since we have someone with a ship, if you're going to do that. Yeah. Oh yeah, because it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a modest thing.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, so we have a serpent beast rider and a serpent shapeshifter and an aeronaut, Sherry.
You all sound like men of action. I think perhaps I will play an oracle of action. Actually, you just need someone to kind of keep us from disaster. That's what
Okay.
it is.
So everyone has chosen their playbook. It's this moment that I realized that I didn't put like a space for your picture on the character tabs,
I
which I should have
noticed.
done. And also I apologize for the gray, white, black scheme, but that's what I was working from as a template, and it would have taken a long time for me to have changed all those colors around. But for pictures, if you can put your picture in those first four on the NPCs tab. We'll use those for the PC pictures. We've got a tab for the NPCs, so everybody can grab one of those to put your pictures in. So what you're going to do, you are going to go through that character creation summary list. Okay, that's on character creation 1. It has you, for most of you except for Sherry, you are going to pick 2 or 3 people from your Bloodline connections list. That's on character creation 2. And 3 to 4 from the other lists. It's a total of 6. Feel free to change names, rename, or come up with new people on there. You're going to pick a person who is the bloodline parent, meaning they come from your particular bloodline, from the Serpent or from the Maelstrom. And then you'll pick a non-bloodline parent. And you can see that next to that list on each of these things where it says NPC Contacts, bloodline is B, parent is P. Okay. Then you're going to pick one person as a friend and one person as a rival. And you'll mark the friend by putting a check mark in the white box, a rival by putting a check mark in the red box. So you're going to end up with 6 contacts. If you are lost, you're just going to pick 6 contacts. Up to 2 of those can be from the Bloodline contacts tables from any Vergence. And you're going to choose one non-bloodline NPC to be your non-bloodline parent. You don't have a relationship with your other parent. And then you'll follow the usual stuff. So you go through, choose your connections. You start with 3 action dots that are already assigned on your keeper. You're going to get 4 more dots. You're going to get, this is a lot. You get that starting ability that's marked on your sheet, and then you get 3 more. I have 4 fingers up, but I meant 3. They get 3 fingers now. You get 3 more. It is
Why not 4?
It get 3 more in addition to that other starting one. If you wish, you can do and take an ability from another playbook as a veteran pick. That is possible. I'm going to unhide the data sheet that has all of the abilities. So if anybody's like, oh, I want a third one from something else, you can look at that, but I'm going to hide the other full sheets. Okay. And after we do that, then we're going to talk about bonds and building some relationships and connections between our characters. We'll do introductions at that point. So do your connections, which includes your bloodline and your parentage. assign your action dots, and pick your special abilities. You can, if you want, last thing I'll say, and I'll stop fucking talking, is you can decide to not pick all your special abilities right now. You can choose them in play. If you want to like choose all of them, play fine, or if you want to choose like hold off one, that's fine as well. Any questions before I mute myself? No. Okay, I'm going to mute myself then before you can ask anything.
Lowell, we're going to be marking one as a friend and one as a rival.
Yes.
What is B and S on my contacts?
Oh gosh, let me look at the thing.
I think B is to mark they're from your bloodline,
Yeah.
and S is
Oh.
sibling.
Yeah, I think S is sibling.
Ew. All right, cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, it says, NPC siblings. You can decide whether you have siblings. Anyone from the other contacts table can be designated as a sibling. A sibling from a Vergence, meaning one of the three houses, can be a bloodline character with the power. If you like, alternately, could be a non-bloodline inhabitant. A sibling from the Umbra does not have the power. If the table doesn't say where the character is from, you can decide.
Hey, Lowell, do you have a thing that says like what warp is? Is that like change?
Sure. I can actually.
Warp, contrived, some of these are a little,
It's on page
Okay.
5 of the sheets after you get below the action rules reference number 2.
all right, I will take a look. Sorry
I'll
about
read it
that.
out. Let me find that and read it out for you too.
Okay.
Rules reference number 2. So command is compel swift obedience. Contrive is implement a clever strategy. Here's the examples they give. You might use misinformation to turn a neutral faction against your enemy. You might set up a clever ambush. You might use minions to attract the attention of guards. Could try to decipher a ancient inscription, but it says, but study might be better. So that's what contrive is kind of being clever. Engage is contend physically against an opponent. Engineer is to make, modify, manipulate, disassemble, or sabotage things. So essentially acting on physical objects, bypassing security, forging things, modifying source code. Overpower is employing brute physical force, whereas engineer is a little more like subtle and managed. Overpower is smashing down doors, creating chaos through distraction, putting people in chokeholds, trying to overwhelm an enemy with sheer force in battle. Though engaging might be more effective at that point. Persuade is influence with oration or other means, argument. Study is our study skills, it's our scrutinize, figure out, it's our knowledge skill. Traverse is to move with skill and finesse, meaning sneaking past guards, traveling from world to world, running and leaping across rooftops, attacking somebody from hiding, all of those things. And then warp, the other one that you specifically asked about, is reaching out with power, with the power, capital P, to sense or manipulate the Umbra. So you might use it to find a weak point between worlds and open a gateway to a new one. You might sense whether there are echoes of the power in other nearby parts of the Umbra. You could try to reach out to the source of your power. You could try to figure out what a strange artifact does, those kinds of things.
All right, I have spread myself suitably thin.
Good.
And somehow I always forget how to put a picture in one of these cells.
Oh, well, I am unlike Rich. I always do insert at the top once I've clicked on the cell, and then down to image, and then image in cell.
I, on the other hand, put the link to the image in a cell, the URL, and then in the place where I want it, I do a formula that is equal image, parenthesis, the cell that I just stuck the URL in, close parenthesis. So it will resize to fit.
Well, too, if you just drop it in there.
Yeah, but then no one can find where you got it in case they
Right.
need it later.
Right. Rich is big on that. I will make sure between sessions I go through and put in the names of all the contact NPCs on here, and then pictures will have to be found.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Excellent. second. So it looks like everybody's in good shape. Sherry, you're getting your contacts in order, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna steal contacts from everyone else and have relations to them.
Okay.
I'm just gonna be caught in their web. It's like they're stuck with me, I'm stuck with them.
Well, let's do this. Let's
I have
Let's
a
take-
question real quick.
Oh yeah.
What's the difference between quality and scope?
So scope is the range of effect. That's how much something can affect. And let me get exactly how this defines it, just so we're on the same page mechanically here.
Because one of my moves is a loyal crew that
Mhm.
start at scope 1 and quality 1, and I'm just I could upgrade either of those. I'm just wondering the difference between them.
Let me look at that's one of the sort of rules for groups. So let's see how it defines that. Contingents. So cohorts are contingents. Contingent scope. Scope is actually kind of, it turns out, is the size.
Number of people.
So scope 1 is about 20 people. Scope 2 is about 100. Scope 3 is about 500.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and take our first break till about 5 after. And when we come back, I will have introduction done, and I will do it in character keeper order. And we'll go through, we'll get everybody set, and then we'll figure out bonds. And we'll also talk about which of the two paths we want to go on for our challenge. Sound good? Okay. So take 10. I'm going to pause the recording. All right. So just briefly before we forget where we are right now in terms of lines, veils, ask firsts for the game that we've got set up here. We have lines on dental horror, homophobia, sexual assault, and torture by the PCs. And then we have veils, meaning we fade to black or allied, or everything happens off camera with this, for eye injury, harm to animals, and suicide. And then lastly, ask first, check in on epidemics or for sexual content. If anybody, we're going to check in before we get into those areas. So those are the things on the table. Remember that we will check in at the beginning of next session and again later on, just to make sure everybody's still on the same page. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have people introduce themselves. Then we're going to figure out which of the challenges we want to do. Then we're going to do bonds. That way we have a little bit of what we're going to be aiming for framework wise before we kind of make those decisions on the contacts and things like that. So let us start with our aeronaut. Patrick, you are the first tab. You've been clever. You would have moved that tab over.
Oh, what has happened?
So Patrick, what's your character's name?
No, you can't trick me. I did it. I spent the entire break doing it, but I did it. He is an aeronaut. He has a ship. He is a captain. He's sort of a swashbuckler. So I went with the dumbest action name I could come up with, and that is Bash Rassius.
Bash Rassius. Sky Captain at large.
He is very tall and tan and blonde in the sort of like burnt that way by the sun. Very like almost leather tan sort of skin and hair that was sort of like nothing brownish blonde and has been like bleached almost translucent at the ends.
Mhm.
Ship is I have a ship, I have a crew. Those are the cool powers to go with or choices to go with. So I have a ship which is the Emerald Repose, which can travel safely through most environments and has a changeable form.
You're a little quiet for me there.
Oh, can you hear me any better?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So it can travel safely through most environments and has a changeable form. Because why not take it everywhere? And I have a crew. They're scope 1, so about 20 or fewer people. Expertise as sky sailors, but they have quality level 2, and they can pilot a vessel through the Umbra on their own.
Oh, nice.
And then my other one, I picked up a different maelstrom from the Stormcaster.
Uh-huh.
Imbue lift. So I can impart lift into inanimate objects so that it floats in the air. The bigger it is, the longer it takes, but I could imbue lift into an entire city. And as it stays as long as I'm near the object, or as a project, I can build it into something permanently.
Nice. So tell me, what is this ship look like when you say changeable form? Is it a shape-shifting ship, or is it like a transformer, or is it that it has like different pieces that shift depending on the environment you're on? What are you imagining there?
I think it is shape-shifting. It is as we sort of shuffle through realities, as we go to different paradigms, it, to the best of its ability, fits in to the local paradigm. If we're going crazy places, it might have trouble keeping up, but the sort of idea is that it should look sort of in place with the world around us.
Okay.
And the dangerous environments, like I just want to be able to take it anywhere. I want to be able to take it into lava, through the heart of a sun, an exploding magical storm, all sorts of stuff.
Okay, take it anywhere. Tell me, who did you choose for your bloodline parent? Like, who is it that is the parent that has that has given you your powers, essentially, in some ways?
So his mother is Electo, Dominus of Natresk. I don't know what that means. It says there's a write-up for her in the book, but
Well,
sounded cool.
I will tell you what the book says, and then you can tell me how much of this is true or not true. How does that sound?
All right.
Let me find that. It is on 80, I believe.
While you're looking at that, his father is his non-blooded parent is Dorgan, an inventor. That sounded fun.
And who is Dorgan? Is he from the Umbra?
Yeah, I think, and I think the Vergence is outside of the Maelstrom sort of area. This was someone like from a far different, distant part of the Umbra that his mother found on her travelings, adventures, whatever.
So our Electo, the Dominus of Natresk, this is what it says about that. It says that Natresk is the greatest of the citadels of the Maelstrom. It is a vast city, a sky city, home to millions of people native to the Maelstrom and gathered from many parts of the Umbra. Electo is a careful administrator thought to have many secrets.
I like that. I like secrets and like responsibilities that I, as a freewheeling aeronaut, don't want pushed on me.
So do you think you were raised by Electo or raised by Dorgan or something else?
I think raised by Electo.
Okay.
I think raised in the Maelstrom, and then the sort of like the whatever that she's over.
And do you think that the ship that you got, did you earn it? Was it a gift from your parent to give you something to strive towards, to get you out of her hair? Or was it something that your father built?
So I haven't chosen my positive contact yet,
Uh-huh.
but I have chosen my rival, who
Okay.
is Noralam, a god in the Umbra.
All right.
And I'm pretty sure that's how I got the ship. I
So
stole it.
stole it from this umbral god of some sort of anchor out there, some sort of place you went to and stole this away.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm not quite sure what Noralim is like, but it at least had this weird Magitech shifting airship thing.
Excellent. And then I see you have marked Morgaine, the Dominus of the Storm Knights, as a sibling.
Yes.
So
Sister would be fun.
So Morgaine is a Dominus of the Night. She's been there for a long time. She's known to be hard and sometimes cruel, but unflinchingly fair. So I imagine, because time is weird, she is your older sister, but probably doesn't look that much older than you, even though she's probably wildly older than you. What do you think your relationship is to her?
To start out with, at least, I think it's probably a sort of like golden child to prodigal child sort of relationship. That she's just another extension of all the stuff that mom wants me to do, and that I'm like a disappointment to what the next generation of this family should be taking up, and that sort of thing.
Okay, I like that. This crew that you have, this loyal and extraordinary crew, is this somebody you picked up across the Umbra, or are they young Turks from the Maelstrom?
I think it's probably like a handful, like half a dozen, that were, yeah, the sort of like young Turks, the like generation that he grew up with here in the Maelstrom, rebellious of different levels of society, went on adventures together. A dozen or so are then just like very odd and disparate examples of umbral peoples from, almost like trophy collecting a crew from different adventures.
Are you sort of a one-piece ship? Is that what we're hearing here?
Yeah, I sort of see
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So very, very disparate people with very specialized skills that make up and bring together a wondrous crew. I see you did went the balance approach, so you could get nice resistance across and good numbers there.
Yeah, it was less for the resistances and more there were just like I don't know. There's something about the character expectations in this game as opposed to some other Forge games that I've played, where like I've got this crew, I've got this ship. There are people that in charge of entire armies or civilizations. Like I feel like I should be good at some more things, so I didn't want to quite embarrass myself.
That makes sense. All right, I think that gives us a good sense of things. I'm going to go around to everybody else. Then we're going to talk about the challenge, and then we'll come back and talk to you about bonds.
Cool.
Okay. Next is our Beast Rider.
Yes. My name is Smiles Like Daggers.
And
And
how are you referred to? Do people always say smiles like daggers, or do they?
it's usually Smiles.
Smiles. Okay.
And let's see. First, what do I say first?
So tell us what you look like, and then maybe tell us about your picks. And
I have thus
kind of
far
back-
been a little stymied. I'm looking for the perfect picture. I was very unhappy with how it's gone thus far. But
he, him.
I am a he, him, and I'm slight of build. I have kind of anime hair. It sticks up. And it's dark, but I have kind of frost tipped it with red to match my lance. I tend to wear nice looking but light type leathery armor look. I have a bit of that fantasy look to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, I tend to have a few weapons on me. I have a, kind of olive complexion. I'm imagining could be tanned, could be natural. But and very dark eyes. And let's see. I'm good at let's see. I picked up one in Contrive. I've got one in Engage. I have 2 in Traverse, 1 in Persuade, and 2 in Warp.
Good.
I start with my ability, of course, Serpent Mage, but which is my movement and stuff. But I have my Blood Lance, which is the kind of traditional weapon of the Beast Rider. It's pretty badass. I have a companion, which I am going to pick that it can fly, and I haven't decided its other thing, but it probably is going to be fierce and quick.
What are you imagining it is?
I'm thinking it's going to be like a wyverny serpent thing, and that's where I've been stymied. It's finding a good picture I'm on, because
Okay.
it's not huge and strong. So it's probably thin, but I come from the serpent. I imagine it has a serpentine reptilian kind of look to it. So I've got to develop him a bit.
Okay. But definitely fly as a choice, and then you're gonna pick a couple others. Okay.
Yeah, I get to pick one more on it.
One
I
more.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's some good ones there too.
Yes, they are. They're just wonderful. I wish I could take more of them on.
Yeah.
And then I picked up a veteran move. I picked up from the Explorer Network. You have established a network of informants across the trading network extending outward from Argos across many worlds. When you gather information, you get +1 effect level. When your network could help you, you can always find someone from your network to connect with if it is even remotely possible. And that will kind of be explained by my contacts. My parents, Curling Tourmaline, who is the spy master of the realm in Serpent.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother is Anastasia, a rival claimant and rebel leader from the Maelstrom. The rest of my inside of my whatever it is, faction or whatever, is Flyer North Guidance, the war leader, is my rival. And Iridescent Joy, a warrior prince, is my sibling.
Interesting.
I think on my father's side. And then
so which of those is your father? The
Curling Tourmaline, the spy
okay.
master of the realm.
All right. And Anastasia is the rival claimant and rebel leader in the Maelstrom. So
in the Maelstrom.
So here we have your parent is the spy master for the lords of the Serpent, while your mother is the rebel. Like who were you raised by?
I think I was raised by my father.
Okay.
And I think I take after him a decent bit, but maybe my temper comes from my mother, people would say.
Okay.
Yes.
And so about your sibling, Eridan's Joy, where, like, is he with your mother? Is he on his own? Is he
No,
older,
I
younger?
believe he's my father's son.
Okay.
And I think that comes from the more traditional or established relationship that my father has here amongst the Serpent. Would probably be, maybe spouse type. I think Anastasia was probably a fling of youth.
Okay.
Part of his spying when he was actually in the field had gone to the Maelstrom and encountered her.
So do you imagine that Eridan's his older brother, younger brother?
Younger brother.
Okay.
And then I have.
How did you end up with Flyer North Guidance as your rival?
I think there is an innate bit of rivalry between them and my father, and then I think that I am a bit of a thorn in the side as our war leader. You would sort of expect me to be out there doing, being a good soldier, being part of the establishment, but instead I'm a beast rider that tends to scoot around through different planes, finding out information from my father, and I've run afoul of the more established military goals. I've popped up in the wrong places. I've sometimes maybe even let people know things that they shouldn't know for reasons that would piss him off or them off. I don't know what Flyer North is.
And this missing prince. So this is from Agoros. This what is he or she like?
I have, my thought is that that was it Porhimorus. I have this idea that we kind of grew up together, that there was an element of me being sent around and in various places as my father was not really wanting to. He was constantly in motion, and thus so was I. But and I think at a time at Agoros, I think that part of that significant period of growing up, that kind of 12 or 10 to 14 area where you really, someone is your best friend and you're going to be best friends forever sort of thing. I think that we shared that together. And then I have that Ikethel, a courtier and spy, also in Agoros, who I think is someone I knew from that period as well.
So is that moving around, your father kind of getting you into these various places, is that sort of how you have your network of informants?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
And I've maintained that. I think that that's been something I'm consistently going around to places, making sure I'm always, I'm one of those people that'll pop up in your life every couple of months and, hey, how you doing? And, you go and have a drink and have a great time. And then they're gone again.
What are you? Are you a warrior? Are you a rogue? Are you a traveler? Are you an explorer? Are you a bard? Like how? Like in how do you imagine yourself in just a couple of words?
I think that I'm a traveler. I am a someone who is. I think that you sort of look at them as being like happy-go-lucky, trying to, going to enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, down deep, I'm a spy. I'm there. I'm there to find out information, and I use it.
All right. I think that gives a good sense of who you are, who Smiles is. Let's come then to our shapeshifter. Harry, tell us about your character.
Alrighty. He goes by the name of -7 Jovial. He's a tall, thin, very handsome. But when you get close, his skin is actually a light coat of fur. And I'm imagining that he's a bit of a hedonist and is all about finding pleasures wherever he goes. Let's see here. He's got, let's see here, a lot of prowess, which is 2 in traverse, 1 in overpower, 1 in engage, only 1 in insight under engineer,
Mhm.
and then 1 in persuade and 1 in warp. He's got adaptability so that his form adjusts itself automatically, so he can basically survive anywhere. And I was wondering, could that on sexual content ask first? Can that be used in a sexual way so that he can take the shape of or the form of whatever the partner desires?
Ooh, interesting. Automatically environment. Let's see. Horrifying creature, extend claws, consume. So we've got imitate, which shifts your body to the physical form of someone who is your same shape and size. Yeah, I don't see why not. Let's put a tag on it. So if it comes up, we'll stop, slow down, and we'll check in and make sure that we're cool with how it's going. Does that seem fair?
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
cool. I'm not going after sexual content or thing. I'm just saying, that's just the way he is.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's see here for contacts. His father is 12 Brown, who's the chieftain of the leftward reach in the Serpent. And his personality, I'm the wasteful son because he's very inflexible and he's kind of like almost like a mercantile militarist.
Mhm.
and I've always been a disappointment to him. Which leads to the person that I'm rival with, which is Dread Red Guile. He's a Wake Rider of the Serpent, which he's a Beast Rider as well, but he's also my brother, and he's the good son, the other one that's going to be, following in the footsteps. So I'm always trying to make fun of him or one-up him in any way that I can. I have a contact of Iridescence Joy. We're not exactly friends. It's more like contacts. The way I kind of view it is on our trial, we went almost like at the same time and almost got to the heart at the same time. And when the shamans named us, they named him first and gave him Iridescence Joy. And then I got -7 Jovial for my name. So it's a little weird. Songbird is an information broker. That's my non-bloodline parent. I see her as the person I go to when, dad's on the warpath again, and she'll always put up with me. For my friend, I used Sheta. I changed it from an ogre to an ogre magi just because
Okay.
of their shape-changing abilities. So a little bit of a mentorship, something along those lines.
Oh, okay.
And then another contact is Enon Wizard, because why not? It's always fun to have a wizard as a as a contact.
Awesome. What did you take for, if you took adaptability, what else did you take for your abilities?
I took Claws of Unmaking, which is, just they're really nasty. They can go.
What do you
through most
imagine
anything.
those look like? Is it Wolverine back of the hands? Is it big bestial claws? Is it Lady Deathstrike?
I think it's a little bit. It changes shape. When I need it. But if you look at the picture or whatever, he's got. That's the usual shape they take, which is like little metal claws on each finger or whatever. That they're like about that long.
Okay. Nice.
And then monstrous form is I can transition into a monstrous form, and it can be optimized for either speed or violence. And if it's optimized for speed, it's obsessed with chasing prey, and if it's in the monstrous violence, it's obsessed with killing. So
Okay. Uh, awesome. I think we got a good sense of that. And you do you think you're generally pictured as a wastrel by most people?
I think he gets along with almost everybody. I mean, it's just people that are usually in, I guess, the power positions kind of look down on him. But he's always what you call it, making friends wherever he goes, and he's almost like a walking party, basically.
Okay. Awesome. Which brings us to our member of the Lost,
Oh,
outside of the Vergences, outside of those worlds.
yes. So my name is Sans Echo, seventh incarnation sign. So
Pronouns?
she, they.
Okay.
Look intense, like really intense. There's a picture on the NPC page for them. And so I went with Oracle. So that means that although I haven't attuned to any Vergence power source, I've discovered for myself secrets of traveling between worlds. When I use my power, it manifests very noticeably. Decide what the manifestation looks like, looks and feels like. And I think that it looks mathematical, if that makes any sense. It's a highly calculation. I mean, it's a set of calculations, and so essentially, and heavy on geometry and, how do you say, divine geography,
Mhm.
geometry. Did I say geography? Geometry, Lord.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. So, that lights up, they draw beautiful symbols, and it's like a magical compass traces out the path that she will take. Anywhere, let's see, also took elsewhere. When I push myself, I can choose to show up someplace unexpected. I can't bring anything else along or more than I can carry. I can't bring anyone else along or more than I can carry. It must be vaguely plausible that you could have gotten there by some other means.
Okay.
So this isn't like the between galaxies thing, probably. I mean, well, it could be, but it would have to be like a ship had just docked or something like that, I suppose. So
You can walk through the Umbra.
well,
There's a lot of plausible in there.
exactly. And that's the thing is, it's just that what it's saying is there has to be some coincidence that occurs that changes the situation at that time. Does that make any sense? It has to be that all of a sudden, statistically, it's at least minutely possible that I could have been there.
Okay.
All right. And then I have followers. So I'm known between places. My followers tend to essentially be very good at creating charms for me and for my tasks. So once between rests, they can take a consequence instead of me. And then also they can help me with arcane and mystical tasks. It ties back to my parent to some extent.
Okay.
You will see. And then I also, and this is up to you, Lil, because I took it and then I'm like, this is kind of like a really like chore for the GM. But I have Pierce the Veil. You get +1d to resist any consequence of confusion or deception. That's cool. But you are always aware of your environment, even when sleeping. You always know whether someone is telling the truth as they understand it. You can detect whether a person or object is in its true form. You can reach out with your mind to study the world you are in and worlds nearby.
That's a really powerful ability.
It is, or it's like, just doesn't matter. It's like one of those with it. It's like essentially, so I don't know. It's like one of those weird ones. But
let's play it. I mean, because being
see
able to
if we
tell
can
when
do it.
someone's telling the truth is a powerful ability
as they know it.
as they know it.
So you could only put dupes in front of me if you really had to get something, over. But
interesting. Let's play with that and see how that works.
okay. And if
Okay.
you hate it, I have other things I can do,
Okay.
but it was just, so anyway, those three, I think the thing that I like the best are my NPC contacts are essentially your guys' contacts. So my rival also is Noralum, a god.
Nice.
Okay.
So my pal is Porharis, the missing prince. Because my father is born cleric of the orb from Agoros, so I do have some ties. And I would say I'm in contact with him now. I wasn't previous, but when I showed up, he knew I was his daughter. So let's put it that way. Also, I know Iridescence Joy, I know Celeth, and I know Dread Red Guile. So
Okay.
those are folks that know me and I know them. And it's just inevitable that I would end up with this trio.
How have you picked up these followers? Like, what are you imagining this is? How has that occurred?
It's that my father, who is a cleric, has always been surrounded by the faithful, but there are always the faithful who are looking for a truth beyond, a truth more immediate, a truth that changes their lives in the here and now rather than in some future soul sense.
Mm-hmm.
And as a oracle, I can tell them what they need to know. I can see that. And so they've just come to pay attention and to like give blessings, prayers, that kind of thing. Does that make any sense? Like the way that they would. So it's not that they worship me, it's that I'm like a priest of another kind of truth for them.
Okay. I see how that would work. Looks like you get strong persuade. We start with that. Looks like you balanced out on the other things. How is it that the missing prince is your friend?
Oh, well, he was missing. And so that meant that, of course, that's who I stumbled over in some of my situations. And I would say that because I do move around the galaxy and stuff, I would say that I popped in at a very, very good time for his survival. Does that make any sense?
Sure. The Umbra, not the galaxy. It makes it sound like we're playing Space Worm and Moonicorn again.
I know, because there's a lot of space worminess to this. So yeah, and that's it. And I assume that like at different times we've been lovers and then not, and whatever. So and he's the missing prince, so I think he's missing on purpose at this point.
I like that. Let's take a moment. We have our 4 characters in play. We have a choice between 2 forms. As I mentioned before, a game of houses, in which case we would choose, and they've got a short list of houses, and we would figure out, why you're affiliated with them, and you would be working missions to raise them up, working through that. That's a real classic, making friends, allies, doing that kind of thing, and trying to raise the fortunes of your house and bring down the enemies of your house. The other one is, listen, you can hear the sound of my creaking book here, the Dark Conspiracy. And essentially, we start out with some attacks, and you are trying to figure out and explore and fight back against this, like figure out who is behind it, what's going on, what's the strange magics involved, why are you targeted, all of that kind of thing. Strong feelings. Let's go kind of reverse order from when we started out here. Sherry, of those 2, does one call to you more than the other?
Oh, I think in some ways, the game of houses feels more like a short run like this than the Dark Conspiracy. But I'm cool with either.
Okay,
I
so
mean, we could at least make headway that felt like headway, as opposed to Dark Conspiracy. All you do is find out more about how deep it goes, and then whoops, you're done. So
you'd have some things to battle. Okay.
it's well,
I will tailor this to the length that we do. I will say that.
so it's a very tiny Dark Conspiracy.
It didn't say
Yes.
fast, it just said dark.
Yes. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I could very easily play either one, but I think for my character, it'd be Game of Houses, just so that he can be a disappointment to his father.
Patrick, what do you think?
I also am good with both of them, but I lean more towards the Dark Conspiracy, I think.
Okay. And Tyler, what about you?
Can I ask if what it means? We're working together. We're a group.
Yes.
If it's the game of houses or whatever, would we be working in tandem for some group, not like the Maelstrom or Grogos or?
So what it'd be is, it says, for this alliance, players or PCs are drawn together by mutual desire to advance the fortunes of one Vergence noble house. And then each player should decide what motivation their PC is. And they have a list of 6. They've got 2 from Agoros, 2 from the Maelstrom, and 2 from the Serpent as options.
I'm up for either. The games are always, I like to do political stuff, but I almost feel like the Dark Conspiracy has us on a firmer footing of what we're doing, since we're of such very different houses for the most part.
Okay.
So I might lean towards the Dark Conspiracy.
So we've got a 50-50 split, is what I'm hearing. So in that case, I will make the final choice, and we're going to go with Dark Conspiracy. If I have to make a choice between the two, let's go with that. So I'm going to hide the Game of Houses sheet, and the Dark Conspiracy comes up. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out some story about your like what has happened in a second. So keep that in mind. You're also going to start with some upgrades. You start out with a group, a contingent of spies, and you start out with a recon agent, essentially. So we've got those 2 things. You also start out with void stones, which are the means to communicate with one another, that are attuned to each of you and kind of linked up. And then you'll get to pick some upgrades as well, which we'll come back to. We'll start with, you'll get to choose a special ability to start, and you'll get to choose some upgrades, but we'll come back to that in a second. Let's get the bonds in place. Now, these bonds are connections to other people. Figure out a relationship to them. Why are they important? Relationship bonds with other PCs. You will notice that there is a box by them that says assist, that you can check marks on that thing. That's because during each segment, during an operation, you can do a free assist with each person that you have a bond with. Rather than spending a stress to give them a die, you can mark that for free. So it's an extra stress for that, and those clear when you do a rest action. Okay. So that's a pretty cool thing. So let's start then with our aeronaut, Bash. Who of the group do you think you know best?
I feel I feel a connection with Sherry for taking Noralam as a rival as well. I feel like there has to be some great story that's caught up between the two of us.
Yeah. So how is it that both of you got caught up having this god as a rival?
Sherry, do you have an idea of how that rivalry started for you?
I think, oh, you have a ship, right?
Yeah, I stole a badass ship from him.
Okay, so yeah, I like the idea that you stole that badass ship and he had actually had me as prisoner. And that was how I got out of there, if that makes any sense, was stowing away in your badass ship. So that's how I met you. But I think that, yeah, I was probably his prisoner. And when you came in, because you got in through the bits that I couldn't at that point, because I had something taken away from me, and I was able to ride along with you till I was free of the bounds.
So then essentially you rescued and the name is Sans Echo. Will be the bond that you'll write in there, Patrick.
Nice.
That brings us to our Beast Rider, Smiles. Who do you want to have a connection with? Who do you think you have a connection with here at the start?
I think at the start that I have a connection with Bash. He's friends with my brother. And I think that it's one of these things of like, I will occasionally put upon him as, showing up and needing a lift and kind of playing off of, him being a pal with my brother and that sort of thing. And I think, what do you think, Patrick?
I like that. Is Iridescence Joy your older or younger brother?
No, he is my younger brother.
Younger brother.
Okay.
So yeah, does that work? That works. So mark that in there, Smiles. Negative. Who do you want to be connected to? What's the bond that you want to have here?
I'm looking at maybe Smiles and also through Iridescence Joy, since he's your brother and we were at the, I guess, a similar naming ceremony together. I'm foreseeing that wandering and stuff like that. I'm the guy that you go to when you want to have a good time. I mean, and I can lift you up out of, what you call it, the bad spirits and stuff like that. And, maybe I bring a smile to your face every time I show up or something. Something similar like that. I mean, if it's all right with you.
I like it. I actually was thinking you would be my other bond as well.
Excellent. And then Sans Echo.
I think it makes sense then that I choose -7 and also through Iridescence Joy. And because that's one that's through the three of us have him as on our list. And I think that then instead I'm a particularly intense person, but I can actually kind of let my hair down and have a good time when I'm with Iridescence Joy and all of his pals.
Nice.
So including -7 in particular. So
And then Bash, we swing back to you. You've got one with Sans. Who do you want your other bond to be with?
I think with Smiles, I like the start of that relationship, but I think maybe something more than just like your brother's friend sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I have my weird and eclectic crew of specialists. Maybe Bash help me, or sorry, Smiles help me meet or connect with one of them.
Oh, we got you your ship's chef or sous chef or whatever. Okay.
You have any ideas there, Tyler?
I might could have helped you like pick up a navigator type person. Certainly, since I travel a great deal, I would have met people. That might be a thought. Or if you want someone who's a specialist of like some sort of fighting, I'm good at that too.
So one of my crew's specialties is they can pilot a vessel through the Umbra on their own. So you think maybe you found me that navigator?
Yeah, that seems like a lovely idea.
Nice.
Nice.
And then Smiles, what do you want for your second bond?
I had been thinking -7. Because and I'm also kind of known for being a bit of a partier, so I think that we have fun together, but I also think that it's a little bit of that you're well born and I have a thought that you could be very useful. I would like to see you advance in comparison to your brother. That sort of feels, because always with Smiles, there's some underlying of what are they of use with him. But it sure is nice to have someone you like being around that you figure you can use.
Nice. You good with that? Okay. And then Negative, what do you want for your second bond?
Okay. I think Sherry, I think you're on my page when you put in the bond. So
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I do that
It's-
all the
yeah.
time. Oh my
It's all
God, I'm
good.
the worst. Okay, I'm moving it right now. It is. I apologize.
Oh, it's all good.
Did I wipe out yours though? The one that you had?
Yeah, but I can replace mine.
God, Steve.
The worst. I drop into other people's characters. Terrible.
Let's see here. Well, it's between Bash and Sans Echo, and I like the fact that I can get the Oracle to let their hair down. But I'm trying, do you think? Sorry. Trying to think of a connection between me and the guy who owns the ship, because trying to change that ship into a party barge is like my main focus, I think.
Well, it might be that you like having someone who has a ship that can get you anywhere you need to go. That you dig that. I think that's a reasonable bond.
Oh yeah, especially since I'm pretty what's the term, itinerant. I mean,
Yeah. You're boat surfing,
yeah.
Okay. And then Sans Echo, what do you want for yours?
I guess Bash, because bash into the ship. I think it makes sense.
Okay.
So, like, they're significant. So I have to pay close attention. I'm kind of actually a little intense about it.
Do you think it's like something about the ship?
Ooh.
Like, I almost know something about the ship. It's like one of those things that's just outside of my reach. It's part of the reason why they are so intense about it.
Nice. Because, you have that, like, enmity with Noralam slightly before I did. You were there where the ship was for a while when I wasn't. I like that sort of idea.
Excellent. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to be able to choose 2 additional upgrades from the list of upgrades that are on the sheet. We'll come back to those. We've got alliance, training, and resource upgrades. You can pick 2 of those. And then you're also going to pick 1 special ability. So I will come back. I'll leave those picks out until we kind of need to make those decisions. When we're going to take 5, when we come back, we're going to talk about what has happened to each of you. That is the signs, the markers of this dark conspiracy, and bring you all together. Okay. So let's take 5. So the way this starts is for each of you, something has happened. And it is, you are affected, but it may not, it's not just that you have been attacked, it's that others have been attacked as well. It will feel like there is some big action, some big conspiracy that is going on, but you have been caught up in this. So the book gives a few choices. That a relative was murdered, that a close friend murdered, or severely wounded, a world that you hold dear, that you've invested some time and energy in, has been destroyed. There's a failed assassination attempt upon you, or something else, some other kind of attack. And I'm going to weave some details into it, but what I want to do is come around to each of you and tell me which of these things kind of resonates with you. I'm going to ask you some questions for to get the picture of that on the table. So again, flipping the direction, Sans Echo. What do you think happened to you? How were you drawn into these attacks made against the various major powers of the Vergences?
I think that the attack was on Agoros, which is shocking in itself.
Okay.
And it was notable that it actually seemed to be targeting my followers. Like essentially, it took a path that essentially this, whatever it was, of the people that were killed, many of them were my followers. So my follower numbers are way down right now.
So
makes any sense.
Argos is the great sort of cavern city. You have a set of followers who were there, and there were a set of attacks made by people that somehow got in to Argos.
Mhm.
And for most people, they're talking about the attacks of this, the nobles were struck, things like that. But I mean, you have enough sense to read the chaos, and the fact that so many of the people that kind of follow in your footsteps, those followers, were struck down by these people. And you've heard, I mean, the information has come back to you scattershot about this. You're told about people that somehow arrived, that killed your followers, and then a number of them, they seem to have unwoven, like after the attack, or in the aftermath, they seem to have unwoven like threads or yarn or something, and have vanished. And that's certainly what you have heard. You have a question?
So you're saying that they themselves came undone?
No, they
No.
they
Where they took thread and unwove it and then disappeared?
the people who were attacked in a sort of a normal mundane means,
Oh.
but when these attackers were destroyed or stopped, they unwove. They became into these threads and then vanished away.
Okay. All right. So it was the attackers that were threads that vanished.
Yes.
Thank you.
What about for you, -7? What occurred that you were wrapped up in here?
I like the idea of a world you hold dear destroyed, and I wanted to tie that to a couple of my contacts, which is
Sure.
Shetta and Enon, the ogre magi and the wizard. They're from the same place, generic fantasy world. Insert here. Say that they had a void stone for me, but they used the last of his power to contact me, and I was able to come in, grab them, and travel them out. And then as the world was destroyed.
And I think that your world, as well as some other sort of key anchor point worlds, have been destroyed, and I think that you would have seen that it was an unweaving, that the skein of that place, and you've never seen anything like that. The world isn't like that, but it was unraveled, undone, and then just if you've ever seen when you put a match to thread and how it catches and goes fast, it's like that. And you managed to get them back. Do you imagine you took them to a neighboring world, or did you take them back to the Serpent?
Yeah, I could probably find them a place on the Serpent, but I don't know if they'd be comfortable there. So maybe trying to find an analogous world, a similar world that they could, feel comfortable in.
So we see you walking through the shadow, through the umbra, a few stages over. We go from Forgotten Realms to Blackmoor to Greyhawk, all of the kind of the subtle degradations that are still within the same continuity.
Yeah.
Stop before you get to Dark Sun,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
all that. What about for you, Smiles?
I think that as I was traveling through different worlds, going on my missions, I began noticing. At first, it felt like people were following me. Then it began to feel like people were waiting for me. And then here recently, I'm pretty sure people have been, I've had where I think they're either trying to poison me or that they're trying to get me in a situation where I get killed. There have been too many things happening for it to be coincidence.
The worlds that you stopped on, that you've walked through the Umbra, you've flown through the Umbra on your beast, and you've arrived and stopped off, and it just kind of doesn't feel right. And you would eventually, when this got to be enough for you, would have returned back to the Serpent and heard about a number of beast riders and storm knights who have gone missing, like a lot of them that have traveled out into the shadow, especially off the Tourmaline Way, where they're traveling kind of on their own, have vanished, and they have been recalling people. This is in addition to attacks that happened on the Serpent. The Serpent itself had to turn. It hit a point in the Umbra where it travels, it moves with that speed through it, but it hit a point where something happened. It actually shook and turned aside briefly, and that vibration would have run down the length of the Serpent. And I think in the Maelstrom, there would have been where the storm kind of is at the edges of that, there were actually one of the cities that floats there in the maelstrom that is there in that great, with that sun beating on it, has vanished.
Oh my.
Bash, what about you? What has been your connection to what has gone on?
So I was looking for something big, and I was looking at like the NPCs in my faction that I didn't choose.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I think might push on that responsibilities from home lever pretty well is there's Telesh, the sovereign of all skies, basically king of the maelstrom,
Mm-hmm.
was assassinated.
Absolutely. And he was assassinated by what appeared to be a representative from the Serpent. In fact, the spy master had arrived to consult with him, and he was struck down, and then the spy master vanished away.
Scandalo.
And that has created a huge amount of things. How did it affect you? Like, where were you when this happened? Were you close by, or did you just hear about it afterwards?
I think I was in Maelstrom territory, close enough that I maybe had problems getting through blockades, and I've been held up long enough that either my mother or sister can start getting messengers to me about the chaos that's going on here, and how they need help, and everybody needs to play their part right now, sort of things.
And it becomes clear that this is a set of attacks across all of the Vergences, multiple attacks coordinated within a short span of time. Like nothing fully destructive, but so many small attacks in different places, like a great game, like a shell game, like a weave and a pattern that you are uncertain what it means, what the whole tapestry of it refers to. Sans Echo, you have these void stones. These are, in this place, the equivalent of the trumps from Amber. When you use a void stone to speak to somebody else, what do you think that looks like? Like, what do you imagine you see? Is it always the same, or is it dependent on your power, or what do you think that is?
Was it what I see or what they see?
I'm asking you, like when you use this void stone, what is it? What happens when you contact someone else?
Everyone that I know, to me and my sensibilities, they all have coordinates in the in a sort of separate umbra, not this one or the other one or the ones that people walk through, but there's sort of one that I'm tapped into, and they're like, all the people I know are like a map. And so for me, when I'm doing that and I go to speak to someone, I'm looking on the map, and sort of it's almost like that thing where like the little icon moves to it and it does like the dash 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 and click, but very much that sort of, there's a set of coordinates, I'd make the connection and then I can speak.
And is it what is the visual like? Like, what do you see of them? How do you see?
You know how when I go walking through the umbra, when I walk through, I turn into a set of idealized lines, And that's what I see of them, is those lines, essentially.
And I
You
imagine
know, the
when
one that goes right through their soul, the one that goes through
and I imagine when you get a
their
call,
energy.
there is because these are connections, because these are like potent things. You
Mhm.
have to decide whether you're going to answer. And I think that usually you can kind of tell what the origin, like you can tell if this is a call from somebody of the Serpent, or this is a call from somebody of the Maelstrom, or this is a call of somebody from Agoros.
Exactly,
And
they're on different parts of the
yeah,
map.
and for you guys, when you get a call from Sans Echo, her thing is very unique. There are people that can hide that can hide their signal, and sometimes you get calls and you don't know who they're from. That's a dangerous thing to open up. But we imagine that you've contacted each other. You've decided that you need to meet up. Tell me, negative. What is the world that the four of you have like previously agreed like would be the meeting point? What kind of world, what kind of setting? Is it like 1920s France? Is it like high medieval? Is it something more Arabesque? What do you think we see?
I'm picturing like a Renaissance age world, and because the ship flies, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this Renaissance world, there, when we showed up the first time, you know, when we were partying one time, they got inspired by seeing the ship, and so now you've got a small, what you call it, the not really dirigibles, but you know, small floating craft that they're trying to model off after our ship, and so we kind of inspired them. And I would
So
say,
we've got kind of a
I,
clock punk
yeah,
Renaissance,
yeah,
Patrick.
I think in that sort of world where there's not a like airship analog for it to go to, it looks incongruously like they're sailing ships just in the air. So I think they have a lot of like airship designs that look like sailing ships.
Been working on that, and so you have arrived there. Smiles. This is a Renaissance kind of clock punk world with these ships. You know that Bash is coming in on his vessel, and he's inspired a lot of changes here. But what is the actual location that the four of you would meet at? Castle, like a fancy inn, something else? What do you think?
I think that this is sort of a kind of a Venetian style city. So we have canals and that sort of thing. And I think we generally meet up at a very expensive, high class entertainment villa. And so it would be the sort of place that would have music and drink and would have attractive people meeting attractive people, and you know, it would encompass like a whole uh entertainments of all sorts in this kind of Venetian Renaissance era.
And tell me, Bash, when you arrive, your ship kind of sailing through, you know, that transition between worlds, and then you're just kind of there. Uh, there's no question, people accept it, but there's this wonder ship that they know of, and that, and you head to this Venetian style, to a villa that's there, and then you can all meet. Bash, who did you expect to be here that is not here? There's somebody besides the PCs that in these kinds of emergencies, these kind of times, you would have sent word out to, you would have called on. They ought to be here, but they're not here. Who is that?
I mean, it's always good to have Smiles along, but I think obviously I was expecting his brother to be here too. Is that iridescent joy? Yeah.
Yeah. Word would have been, you would have given him word, you would have put it through your contacts, and yet he is not here. And you find that unusual. But I think we come in and we see the four of you there. I imagine in the background we see the ship. What does the ship look like right now?
Right now it looks like we've got this Venetian, so it's this like very elaborately scroll worked sailing boat with like, you know, all the ends of everything ends and all sorts of like curly all rigged up in their own little things.
Awesome. So you four have arrived there to discuss what your next move is. Let me ask you this now. Let's pause and take that mechanical check. What special ability do you think that when it brings the four of you together, plus your things that you want to have, and there are it's aggressive, that you get an extra die for engagement rolls to assault plans. There's back trail. When you're world walking, you're always knowing when you're being chased or followed. Blood Sworn gives you a bonus when you fight alongside contingents. Confederates, each scheming phase, you get 3 favor from factions with whom you have an alliance instead of 2. Counter espionage, all PCs and any contingent get +1 die to gather information to find traitors, moles, or double agents. So you can see all those that are on there, that list there. Patrick, if you had to narrow it down to, say, 3 choices off that list, maybe 4, what would you narrow it down to?
I think back trail, especially given what Smiles has been dealing with. I think Confederates. I don't quite know what favor is, but it's an economy, and we should get more of it, and we should have people helping us.
So I'll tell you what favor does. You can spend favor to give yourself bonus dice.
See, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And harmless infiltration. I think that's interesting. Harmless.
Harmless.
Implement
Okay.
an infiltration plan when we sneak into somewhere.
Tyler, any of those appeal to you? Is there another one you want to add to the short list?
I like Confederates quite a bit, and if I were to add another, it would probably be loyalty. Yeah, that Confederate sounds cool.
-7?
Yeah, those all sound great. I would aim at back trail, Confederates, or loyalty. One of those. It sounds
Okay.
about right.
Sherry, what do you think? I will say, if you take Confederates, we will now decide a group that you have an alliance with.
Yeah, let's do Confederates. I mean, I think Confederates is really good because we are all travelers.
Okay.
I mean, we're highly mobile, and
So let's figure out what group you have an alliance with. Do you think it's like one of the major factions from one of the Vergences? Do you think it's like we've got the Coronin Monastery, this weird monastery? We've got the Legion, which is a mercenary group that moves through the shadows. Got Leviathan hunters. Like, what kind of group do you want to be allied with? Somebody powerful or somebody cool? Bash?
I mean, if that's the question, there's no question. It's obviously somebody cool.
Okay. So let's go with somebody cool. So not any of the big six that are at the top. Tyler.
That would be foolish.
That'd be foolish, yeah. Tyler, looking through this weird list that doesn't have any explanation.
Do we have that somewhere?
Yes,
Under
I'm gonna show it.
faction.
Under faction. We scroll down at the
There
bottom
we
of the
go.
faction thing. I
Okay.
got this weird list of things.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
there.
okay.
Look at that, huh?
Oh, how cool.
The blue faction and the green faction are the underworld, battling underworld factions in Agoros.
Ooh, that's neat.
The construct is a supercomputer that runs across the shadows that this strange group of people maintain.
Oh my God, that sounds so cool. Why would it not be that?
Exactly, says me, Sans Echo.
I will. I would pitch out.
Give me a couple of names.
Yeah, I would pitch out the construct. I would pitch out the Sky Fleet, and I'd pitch out my mom, Anastasia.
Okay. Sherry.
I love the construct. I like, oh God, Storm Knights are cool. And the Wake Riders sounds awesome too. The Deep Hunters, oh man, it's all good, man. We can't go wrong, but I mean, the construct is pretty loopy. Like,
okay. So we got Skyfleet, Wake Rider, Storm Knights, Construct, Anastasia. So of those five, Harry, which do you think you want to go with?
For me, I love the idea of the Wake Riders, because they're the Beast Riders of the Serpents, and we've got a Beast Rider and iridescent Dread Kyle's my rivals, a Wake Rider. So
okay.
I really like that one.
Put the Wake Riders on there. I'm actually gonna put the other names on there, because you can in the scheming phase go and try to gain favor with them. Work on winning them over to your side. We got that. We got the construct. We've got the Skyfleet. Got Anastasia. And what was the other one? Was it the Storm Knights? Storm Knights. Okay. Okay, so you start out with an alliance with the Wake Riders, and that means you're going to have 3 favor with them to start. Okay, now here's the thing we're going to do. Okay, there are alliance upgrades, training upgrades, and resource upgrades. Now, the game says pick 2 upgrades. Well, it seems to me it'd be easier if we just said, why don't you take 1 from each of those sets. So, who wants to pick one? Who wants to pick the alliance upgrade?
and are we upgrading the Wake Riders, or are we upgrading all of our agents?
So these are like all of your agents, your cohorts or whatnot.
Oh,
Tyler, do you want to pick the alliance upgrade, the resource upgrade, or the training upgrade?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'll take the alliance upgrades.
Okay. All right. Harry, do you want to do the resource upgrades or the training upgrades?
I'll go for the resource upgrades.
Okay, you resource upgrades. Patrick, you're going to pick the training upgrades. And then Sherry, you're going to pick one wild card after that because I'm going to be super generous because we've got a short number of sessions. So I'm coming back to you, Tyler.
All right. I think I'm going to take Pathwalkers.
Pathwalkers. Okay. So all your cohorts are able to follow paths through the Umbra as if they were power level 2. So you've got the people on the ship and they can lead it through, but any of your agents that you have, any cohorts that you have, and you start out with a couple, an agent and a contingent, they can also move easily through with high power. So they are very skilled at that. Harry.
I like the looks of Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. When you spend a rest or a scheming phase in your base, you get to recover 2 extra stress.
Yeah, mechanical goodness.
Yes. And then Patrick, what do you want for the training upgrade?
Like the will upgrade.
Okay.
Everybody gets a dot in command, persuade, or warp.
Okay. So yeah, and you don't have to all pick the same one, but it's an extra die, and that is always nice. Sherry, you have a wild card, you get one more pick.
Can I choose a special ability?
Why the fuck not?
I do think Back Trail is really cool.
Okay. And I think that's where we're actually going to stop, because we're going to start out next time with investigating, figuring out, scheming. We'll give you some details. We'll get pictures for NPCs in between. We'll put all the names in there, and we'll start out. Maybe we'll even get kind of like some ident on who your contingent and your agent are, and what your hidden base looks like that you can rest at. Sound good? Okay. Then that is where we're going to stop, because this session 0, I usually wait until after the first session to do stars and wishes. But if you have anything that you want to say, oh, I really want to see this in our play, you feel free to send that to me. Also, if between now and next session you go, I have made a terrible choice on your character, feel free to make changes. We haven't locked anything into stone whatsoever, so you can make any changes. Sounded good? Okay, then I'm going to stop the recording.